The Salem witch trials, the Maoist struggle sessions, and online cancel culture. What if I told you that all of these things have something in common? Hi, my name is Gothix, and today we're tackling a topic that I personally have been affected by, and that topic is cancel culture. According to the Urban Dictionary, cancel culture is an internet phenomenon that has emerged due to the internet's highly dogmatic hive mind mentality, where opinions and attitudes of the public are harmonized into one unanimous blob. That said blob will spontaneously accuse and reprimand anyone who rubs them the wrong way, regardless of the individual's intention. For example, let's look at my situation. Back in 2019, I was canceled for voicing my distaste for Disney's decision to cast a black actress as Ariel in the live-action Little Mermaid. When we talk about representation for people of color, I find race-bending a historically white character more of a cash grab than anything else. Of course, Black Twitter did not take kindly to my opinions on that, and in a span of 24 hours, I was labeled anti-black, that I hate black women, etc., etc., etc. Essentially, the gist of cancel culture is the public making an accusation about someone or something that they know little about, or overinflating a minor or irrelevant issue. My opinion on the movie wasn't wrong or intentionally hurtful, but to Twitter, that was enough to subject me to weeks of harassment and public humiliation. The end result put me in a severe state of depression, which prevented me from making a living for a while, which left me wondering, how could people be so willing to participate in such a barbaric practice over a difference of opinion? But after observing and speaking to others who've also been targeted by online mobs, it's clear to me that there's a common phenomenon shared between its participants, which I refer to as the hero complex. These are folks who feel that they are actually doing something righteous by holding someone accountable. The problem with this is that I find the usual reasons online mobs are instigated is over a bad opinion or an offensive statement, which, by the way, are both subjective, as everyone has different levels of sensitivity, and we can't expect everyone to unanimously be offended by one particular thing. Of course, when I point out this unfairness to those who view cancel culture in a positive light, the common response that I get are usually references of the Me Too movement, cases like Harvey Weinstein, for example, which I personally believe is still a problem, but I'll get to that in a second. Now, I know that all of you don't necessarily agree with everything that I have to say on this channel, but today I'm going to attempt to make an argument against cancel culture. So if you're someone that utilizes the practice as a form of accountability, I'm asking you to please watch this video in its entirety before returning to dragging random strangers on the internet. Like I mentioned earlier, the most common reason that cancel culture tends to be justified is to hold someone accountable. But when I ask people to elaborate on what that means, I find that there isn't a direct explanation of what online accountability looks like. Do you want them to apologize? Do you want them to change their opinions? Are you trying to get them fired from their job? Or are you only interested in letting all of Twitter know how much you personally dislike someone? The thing about online interaction is that intent is very hard to identify. Unlike face-to-face conversations, body language, tone, and context aren't very clear. But if I'm being totally honest with you, a lot of the times those factors aren't really important to the people that participate in the practice. For example, I like to refer to my haters as roaches, because just like the insect, you can't get rid of them and they pop up every now and then just to annoy the shit out of you. So I recently declared on Twitter that the term roach is my preferred nickname for my haters, but I also made a point to clarify that the term is in no way intended to be a racial insult, because according to Urban Dictionary, roach is something that is used to refer to a person of color. But even after I made this clear, Black Twitter still accused me of being racist despite providing context, which leads me to believe that some people just want an excuse to stay mad at something. But Gothix, don't forget about the sexual predators and the racists. Trust me, I didn't forget. The problem with cancel culture is it totally bypasses due process. Typically, when someone is accused of sexual assault or another crime, there's something that we call a fair trial, which includes evidence, deliberation, investigation and a verdict. However, in the court of public opinion, aka Twitter or Facebook, it seems that only people care about is just the sentencing part, which sounds awfully similar to the Salem witch trials, where innocent people were sent to the gallows after being accused of witchcraft over baseless accusations. They have a mole on their back, so they must be a witch. They said they don't like her content, so he must be a misogynist. You get what I'm saying? But Gothix, we have compelling evidence against the accused. Oh yeah? Really? What evidence? A screenshot that can be altered? Okay. And who's examining that evidence? Some random person on Twitter with an anime avatar? Really? But Gothix, cancel culture isn't perfect. Yeah, you can say that again. I personally find this rebuttal distasteful, but for the sake of the argument, let's assume that you've participated in an online mob 100 times, and out of those instances, only one of those cases were proven that the person actually did wrongdoing. Is that one case a good enough reason to overlook the 99 other cases of false accusations that were made about someone? Really? I doubt that. But what about if someone says something offensive or racist? Okay, and let's go back to my original question. What is your goal? Are you trying to get the person to change their speech or to apologize for a statement? If you answered yes, I have some bad news for you. No one has to like you, and no one has to respect you. Yeah, it would be nice, but that's not the reality of the world that we live in. I get hurtful comments all the time from people who hate me on a personal level, and it is what it is. The act of publicly shaming someone over something that I personally find offensive has an eerie similarity to the Maoist struggle sessions, which were intended to shape public opinion. Just a quick side note, the Black Lives Matter movement has been heavily criticized for using the same tactics by shaming civilians who refuse to pledge allegiance to the movement or raise their fist in solidarity. History sure has a way of repeating itself, don't you think? Another thing with online mobs is that it could manifest into a bigger issue than the original problem, which then makes you the aggressor. Some examples include depression, suicide, loss of income, doxing. Pretty much means that someone takes your personal information like your home address or your phone number and shares it with the world. And of course, defamation of character. Speaking of which, this is something that I feel cancel culture sympathizers should be worried about. In a recent case of defamation, a teenager settled a $275 million lawsuit against CNN after being smeared by the media. You probably remember that viral video of that white teenager in the MAGA hat that was smirking in front of the Native American man. Well, the media thought that that was enough to say that he was the aggressor, he was a white supremacist, and a racist. Which, by the way, if you accuse someone of being a racist, you have an obligation to prove the racism, which CNN obviously didn't do, and that's why they're in the position that they're in. A white teenager in a red hat does not automatically mean he's a racist, just like me preferring Little Mermaid to remain white wouldn't make me anti-black. But even if you came across someone that said something racist online, I would argue that publicly shaming them wouldn't actually change their behavior. And when the online mob spirals out of control and let's say the person who made the racist statement gets doxxed and a stranger shows up at their house with the intention to hurt them, would that honestly be fair justice to you? If someone says the N-word to me, I don't want them to die. After speaking to a few others who have been targeted by online mobs, I have a few tips to help cancel the culture. In my opinion, the foundation of cancel culture is public outcry. Some people are simply incapable of resolving their problems privately and prefer to do it publicly in front of an audience. This tells me that public validation and social media engagement are both very important to these types of people. So to combat this, we want to remove the reward entirely by completely ignoring them. I'm serious. Ignore the post in question. Don't comment on it, don't like it, don't retweet it, nothing. However, If you feel that you want to say something, and I implore you to take my first option and just ignore it, but if you want to say something, you can do so by retweeting the post with your comment. This puts the ball in your court and gives you the social media impressions and not the other person. And also, responding with a question challenges the narrative. So you can do something like, why didn't you message the person privately? Or what authority do you have to hold this person accountable? Which is a very valid question. And finally, a word of advice to those who've experienced cancel culture or are dealing with it right now. Don't apologize. Ever. Now, obviously, if you did or said something wrong that affects someone else directly, you can apologize, but it doesn't have to be public in front of an audience. However, to apologize for an opinion or the fact that someone just simply doesn't like you, don't do it. Doing so would signal to everyone else that personal opinion and personal behavior can be changed using force. Refusing to apologize lets them know that they have no authority over how you feel, act, or think. However, and this is a big however, and I want you to be prepared for it, if you refuse to apologize, you're pretty much going to unlock cancel culture level 2, where the focus shifts from you to those who associate with you. So this includes your family, your friends, your employers, your sponsors. A perfect example of this would be J.K. Rowling. She refused to apologize for her opinions regarding the trans community, and that resulted in people contacting local bookstores demanding that they stop selling her merchandise. And I know I'll get some comments from people saying, well, J.K. Rowling is still thriving, so obviously cancel culture doesn't exist. And to you, the general public, it may appear that way if someone refuses to apologize, doesn't cower away in fear, or doesn't lose their job over cancel culture. But let's also acknowledge that these people have massive followings or a massive bank account that they can bounce back from the experience. But let's not forget for a second that these people are still susceptible to the mental effects of cancel culture, which could have a trickling effect to their livelihood. Like me, I wasn't able to make content or make a living for months because I was so depressed. I was in a terrible headspace because of it. So while it may appear that there is no cancel culture, we actually don't know how much it's affecting them. With that being said, I find that the most successful online mobs tend to be those that involve average people or content creators like myself who are just starting out in their field, but may not have a large enough support system to get them through the experience. For a while, I really resented those that participated in my cancellation. Imagine working hard to make something of yourself and quit your job to pursue content creation and have a complete stranger just strip that away from you. It's just not right. But the experience did teach me a few things. It taught me to be more comfortable speaking my mind and being myself. Doing so has been a huge weight off my shoulders because I don't feel like I need to censor myself in order to make other people feel good. I'm responsible for what I say and not what other people understand. And if someone says something that I find offensive, that's a personal problem for myself that I need to work on, instead of expecting everyone else and their mother to behave in a way that I personally find appropriate. So to wrap it all up, there is no such thing as a bad opinion, so don't apologize for it. Accountability doesn't need to be public, especially if the accountability is coming from a random stranger on the internet. Serious accusations should still be handled through the proper channels to allow that person an opportunity at a fair trial. And that's pretty much it. I hope I was able to change at least a few minds on cancel culture, and if I wasn't able to, I just hope that if you're someone that still participates in it, it never happens to you, because let me tell you, it's an experience. So yeah, thank you to everyone for watching, and a big shout out to all of my Subscribe Star members for sponsoring this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content like this. And by the way, also, one more thing, I actually created a website just to help combat cancel culture, because I'm actually really serious and passionate about this topic in particular. So if you're interested in helping helping out or want more information, head over to this website right here. My name is Gothix, and I'll see you in the next one.